Good evening, folks, and thank you for coming. We encourage those of you just coming in or standing to find a seat. Welcome to you in person, and welcome to those that are watching on television and in other ways online. This is the Cousins Concert. It's true, they are cousins. Their mothers are sisters. And so Rich and Bill grew up in musical homes, and we'll hear more about that a bit later. I'm not going to say very much throughout the evening. I'll be back a time or two, but mostly we're going to listen to them. We will have a couple of opportunities to hear a little bit about Bill's life and a little bit about Rich's life, so you have a little more context for them. Let's take just a moment and pray, and then we'll turn it over to the guys. Father in heaven, we thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. We thank you for the gift of music. We know that from Scripture, you have a very high priority on music as a means of worship. You've told us to sing. We know there are lots of instruments mentioned in the Scriptures, and we thank you for Rich and Bill and for the talent that you've invested in them. Thank you that they've been willing to develop it and use it for your glory, and we're the beneficiaries tonight. We ask you to be here. We know that you're here in spirit, and we ask you to fill our hearts and our minds as words for these songs come to our minds, as we hear the harmonies and as we hear the beautiful sounds. We just want to rejoice in the creativity that you have placed in the people that you have created. Thank you for the joy of being here tonight. In Jesus' name, amen. My name's Terry White. I'll be back in a while, and now it's over to the guys. Boy, he can milk sounds out of that I've never heard before. That's great, Bill. Thank you very much. Rich is going to grab a microphone, and we're going to talk a little bit about background here. Those of you who live locally know that Rich plays here often, so you get to hear him. Bill lives in Florida, so we don't get to hear him as much. But also, if you want to hear Rich regularly, you can tune into WIOE Oldies at 9 o'clock on the second and third Sunday, and you can hear him play pipe organ at another church in town, and I frequently do that. Rich, tell us...
And you can hear Terry on the other 2 Sundays at the same church, so...
Yeah, well, tell us a little bit about the origins. Where'd you come from, and just a little bit about this family connection of being cousins.
Grew up in Winchester, Virginia. Our mothers were both pastors' wives. And I'll tell you a story about my mother, first of all. She's the youngest of 3 girls, and Bill's mother was the oldest of the 3 girls. The two older girls took piano lessons, and my mother didn't. And they would come home and practice, and when they were done, she'd go to the piano and play whatever they played. So they thought maybe they should get her piano lessons too, after a while. Yeah. But grew up in Winchester.
Now, your dad held a record for a Grace Brethren pastor for a lot of years. How long did he pastor that church?
I think he was there 41 or 42 years. In Winchester.
My goodness, and the average is what, 7 years, something like that?
And they voted on him every year. After about 20 years, they decided to give him a 2-year call.
Did your mother teach you piano?
No, that didn't work. No.
You must have shown some skill or aptitude early on. Did you get piano lessons in Winchester?
Yeah, it was just normal. When you started first grade, you started piano lessons. That's just the way it was. Took through about 7th grade, and then baseball, basketball, everything else got in the way.
I was going to say you were an athlete, and almost all athletes quit playing piano.
And I took again maybe my freshman year in high school for a year, and that was it. And then college, majored in piano. Yeah.
And you came here to Grace College as a freshman. And tell about the quartet that we almost had.
Well, I don't know what.
You don't need to name names.
No, we were supposed to travel, had a quartet, and Terry and Sharon were going to travel with us to the West Coast, representing Grace. And one of our members did something he wasn't supposed to back then. Probably okay now.
He went to a movie.
And he wasn't allowed to travel that summer. And so Terry sang bass. There's a song like that, isn't there? Terry sang bass. Sharon played the piano, and we had a quartet. Yeah.
Standards are a little different now than they used to be. Now, your dad was also very instrumental in the Grace Board of Trustees.
He was president of the board for about 10 years.
Yeah.
When I came to school, he resigned.
Bill, I think your dad was on the board also, wasn't he? And so was mine. Boy, without the 3 of our dads, how would they have gotten along?
He was on the board of Grace Village, too, my dad was.
Yeah. Do you have some family here you'd like to introduce us to?
Sure. My wife, Teresa.
Wave your hand.
Is here. Wave your hand. And my daughter, Ashley, is next to her.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, tell us a little bit about your career. We got through the quartet thing in Grace College, and then what happened?
I graduated, finally. I taught school at Concord. Was their choral music director for 37 years, and retired a long time ago. Retired in 2006, so just hanging around since 2006. Yeah.
And not everybody may know this, but Rich had been playing this organ at Winona Lake Grace Brethren Church, and they phased into a different kind of music and weren't using the organ so much. And so Rich engineered the process of getting the organ here, where it is now used a lot. And it's getting back to glorifying the Lord with the sounds of the organ. And so thank you for doing that. And by the way, thank you to Grace Village, and thank you to Brian for allowing us to be here tonight and do this. Anything else you always wanted to say?
I want to thank Tom McGee back here, too. He's the one we originally got the organ from in Indianapolis.
Wave to us, Tom.
He's also the one that moved it and was instrumental in getting it over here with his crew and everybody else, and he's here tonight from Indy.
Great.
Yeah, thank you very much. Did you ever say anything else? No, good. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Rich. Bill, grab the microphone and let's chat a little bit. People have asked me, what is Bill's organ playing like? And my answer is always, he plays the organ like juicy fruit tastes. And we're going to talk in a little bit about how he learned some of those harmonies. Your inventiveness with harmony is just amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, let's go back in history. Yes. 1954.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Kittanning, Pennsylvania,
Yes.
45 miles up the river from Pittsburgh.
Yes.
Little Grace Brethren Church, West Kittanning Grace Brethren Church. I am the church pianist, and I'm 12 years old. Mm-hmm. And my dad is the chairman of a search committee to find a new pastor for the church because Gordon Bracker had left.
Yes.
And he finds this guy named William Schaefer out in Spokane, Washington. And I hear that this guy has a son who's a really good pianist, and I'm thinking, I'm about to lose my job as church pianist. Enter a layman whose name is Bert Jordan.
Bert Jordan.
You know him as the father of Dolores Byers and Terry Jordan, who's over here in the corner. And tell us about Bert.
I'm sorry, I was looking at Terry. My father.
Pay attention, Bill.
My father, right? Yeah. Yeah, my father left Spokane. He had a habit of leaving in the middle of the school year. So my mother was a teacher. She was teaching in another place in actually Bern, Indiana. So we went to Spokane from Bern, Indiana. And when we got there, as you say, Terry's father and a trustee got this organ from a nearby town. And when the organ came in, my dad says, well, who's going to, my president, the elder said, who's going to play it? And my dad says, Billy is going to play it. So my first time playing the organ was Easter Sunday in 1954 on live radio. So, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, and so for 3 years then, Bill was the organist and I was the pianist. Then
Right.
you went off to Grace College.
Well,
and I
Grace
got to
College.
play the organ.
That's right.
Yeah. And when you came to Grace College, then what happened?
I studied music for 4 years, not knowing really what I was going to do, but I knew that I wanted to be involved in some fashion. So the music kind of found me. I was in all the music groups, choirs, and tours, summer tours, and that kind of thing. So I just kind of kept going until the jobs kind of found me, and it was kind of a nice ride because I really had no goals. I didn't say I want to be this or that. I just felt like the Lord had a purpose for me, but I didn't know really what it was. And then at the end of that route, in 1968, I got a call from Larry Poland, who was, of course, here at Grace. His father, Frank, was a long-time resident here, and I went down to join him at a place called Miami Christian College, and I spent 9 years there as director of the music department, and have been there ever since 1968. And so back here for a visit with relatives and friends.
Now, when Rich was at Grace College, he found a girl from California to marry. Mm-hmm. Did you find someone to marry at Grace?
I did. I found a lady who was a year older than I was. Actually, a half a year older. Anyway, she was in the class above mine, and we had no interest in each other for the first maybe 3.5 years, and all of a sudden we started kind of noticing each other. Now, her interest was in sports and drama, and mine was in music. So, of course, there's a natural match, right? So somehow we got together, and the rest is history. And she's been a wonderful wife for 59 years this year. Yep. And we had 4 children and 9 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren. 3 great-grandchildren.
And Marielle says, here, just give us a wave so we can see.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, she's from Dayton, Ohio area, and she's...
Now, the thing that always fascinates people about your organ playing is this inventive harmonic system that you have. I know a little bit about how you learned some of those harmonies, because I would come into the church and I would see you sitting there with a phonograph record. Mm-hmm. And you had records from Paul Mickelson and from Kurt Kaiser mm-hmm. and from a bunch of other well-known gospel pianists, and you'd play a snatch and then you'd listen. And you'd play a snatch and you'd listen. Is that mainly how you gained all that harmonic?
Yeah, I taught myself keyboard harmony before I knew how to read music. Actually, I went there and found the chords, and I used to go. Our church at the time, as you recall, had a tower system, and before it wouldn't be allowed now, but they play recordings through this big tower system through the neighborhood. Anyway, so I found those records that were there. I played them, privately in the room. So I went over there and ran to the Hammond organ and tried to imitate the sounds, and that's how I got into harmonies like that.
Yeah. Now, I remember you took piano lessons from the same lady I did.
Yeah, Zacharias.
Yeah, and she used to tell us about Rachmaninoff. I don't know if she studied with him or just
I don't know.
heard him or what.
Yeah.
But I always remember that. And then you came to Grace,
Yes.
and then you went on and did a master's in piano, right?
Master's actually in, I studied, master's in Oregon actually, in Chicago, right? Because I had a year in IU, and then I didn't have a degree there, but I went on to American Conservatory of Music in Chicago, and there I had a degree in Oregon from there. I became legitimate. After doing all this stuff, I had to be, if I was going to be a teacher, I had to be legitimate, so.
And you taught at Grace for a while. You taught.
I taught at Grace. I taught I think theory and piano or whatever else they needed me to do part-time.
Yeah. Did I miss anything you wanted to say? Or did you want to introduce the next number?
Yeah, I'd like to introduce the next number. One of my mother's most favorite songs was the hymn Face to Face. For some reason, she really adored that song and requested it at her memorial service. So I'm playing that on the piano in her honor. So please accept this as a memory of my mother, H. Maureen Shaffer. She was a wonderful woman, as was Esther Sunday Dick, right? Our middle name was Sunday Dick, and they were a wonderful family to have be a part of. So I'll do that right now.
Thanks, Bill.
There's 6, actually. Yeah.
Well, we're almost to the end. A few more songs, and Bill likes to do a little hymn recognition thing. And so we're going to test your knowledge of hymns. He's not going to start at the beginning. He's going to start in the middle somewhere. Thank goodness you aren't college kids. They look at you with a blank stare when you play these songs. They've never heard most of them, or any of them. But you're knowledgeable. I know you are. Do you want to say anything about it, Bill?
I do. Here's the rules. Here are the rules for the grammar people. Here, excuse me. I want you, now you can't just yell out the piece. You've got to raise your hand and I'll recognize you, okay? And so anyway, and then once you answer, that's it. You can't answer anymore. You've done your answering, okay? The first one is very easy. You ought to get this one right away, okay? Oh, come on, come on. I'll play more. Raise your hand. Yes. Yes, and in the garden. That's the one. That's a Rhoda Heaver song, so that you know
One
that.
for Rosemary.
Okay. Yes. I didn't hear that.
She said, "This is my Father's world."
No.
No.
A mighty fortress.
A mighty fortress is our God.
Okay.
Yes.
Here's one. We brethren have heard this, and Baptists have heard this. Yes. Just as I am, right.
One for Howard.
Okay. Yes. Got it. Oh, worship the King. We're almost here.
Thank you, Donna.
Yes, back in the back. There we go. Very good.
All
Very
right.
good. 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 Okay, this is a seasonal one. Yeah, back in the back. That's it. That's it. That's right. Very good. Thank
All
you.
right.
Fun.
Let's
Fun.
give Bill
Thank
a
you.
hand for that little quiz. They've asked me to say just a couple words about the next two songs because they both have roots in Winona Lake's history. And the first one is Great Is Thy Faithfulness. This song was not written by, this is not connected to the Rhoda Heaver Publishing Company, but this was written by a man named Thomas Obadiah Chisholm, who also wrote Living for Jesus, you may know that, and he was a life insurance agent and had an office down on Park Avenue in Winona Lake. And so a lot of people don't know that it had its roots here. It's based on that passage in Lamentations. You're going to hear that. And then after that, you will hear the well-known Beyond the Sunset. And I'm sure you all, or mostly all, know the story behind that. I'm going to tell you anyhow. Homer Rhoda Heaver had big parties down on Rainbow Point. And he was having one night, and he had some people there, including a blind cousin named Horace Burr. And there was a couple there named Blanche and Virgil Brock who were at the party. And they were sitting there, and you know what the sunsets are like over Winona Lake. So they're looking west, and this thing's all orange and purple and everything. And all of a sudden, Horace Burr says, "That's the most beautiful sunset I've ever seen." And they looked at him, and they said, "How can you say that? You're blind." And he said, "Oh, but I can see beyond the sunset." Well, Blanche and Virgil went over to their house, which is the hillside, which is the last house behind the Billy Sunday Tabernacle, and they wrote Beyond the Sunset. Were you to go out to Oakwood Cemetery, drive straight in and look to your left, there's a $30,000 granite monument there that have both the words and the music inscribed on it to Beyond the Sunset. They're buried underneath it. And some summer nights, there is a CD player, a battery-operated CD player out there playing Beyond the Sunset. We got something better. We got Bill and Rich. So. Well, thank you for being such a good audience, and thank you again to the Village for allowing us to be here tonight. Thank you to all of you who tuned in out there in the atmosphere. And we're going to let you sing a little bit as we conclude. We've got a couple of hymns. I'm cheating because I have the words in front of me. My memory's not as good as yours, but you'll know the words. And we'll just sing these, and then we'll be dismissed. Brian wanted me to tell you that be alert, because there probably is going to be a Christmas carol sing coming up on this schedule, and so you watch for that, and you'll have an opportunity to sing a little bit later in the season. Whoop. Hit it. Amazing grace, how sweet sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to feel, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did grace appear the hour I first believed. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already come. 'Tis grace hath brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. In their 10,000 years, shining as the sun, we've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun. All get to heaven. What a joy of rejoicing that will be when we all see Jesus. We'll sing and shout the victory. Thank you. You are dismissed.